Hello, everybody. My name is Sam Harrell. I'm Information Officer with the Alaska Incident Management Team. This is a public meeting on Friday, September 24th for the McCash Fire. We'll have presentations today from members of the Alaska Incident Management Team. We've got representation from the forest here, and what we'll do is we'll run through and we'll have all the presentations first, and we'll follow that up with questions that we have collected from the public so far. This will also be recorded. The recording will be held on social media, and it'll be available for people to continue to comment on afterwards. So comment during the presentation, and we'll answer those questions. And then afterwards, we'll be sure and follow up and answer those questions as they come in. So today we're going to hear from the Alaska team's Incident Commander Norm McDonald. We'll get operational updates from both Operations Section Chief Kyle Cowan for the Southern Operations and Ops Section Chief John Glover for the Northern Operations. We'll get a weather update for our Incident Meteorologist Dan Byrd. Fire Behavior Analyst Tobin Kelley will tell us what fire behavior we can expect. Air Resource Advisor Mark Koppel will be with us and kind of give us what the smoke outlook is going to look like here coming on. Karuk Tribal Agency Representative Vikki Preston will be here with us today also. Klamath National Forest District Ranger for the Orleans and Yukonom District, Nolan Colegrove, will also give a presentation with us. We'll get into questions and answers afterwards, and so I think right now, Norm, why don't you go ahead and get us going?
All right, thank you, Sam. Hi, everybody. My name is Norm McDonald. I'm the Incident Commander for the Alaska team. Just glad to be here. And what I wanted to fill you in today is just a few things we're working on, kind of what our process is. We're about midpoint of our assignment. We're day 6, so going into finishing up our first week. It's really given us a chance to get our boots on the ground out there, get our folks to work, and get a good look at the problems that we have. I'll let the operations guys will come in after me here and go into detail, but really we've had a good week here. We came in right as we had that good shot of rain. It was about an inch to 1.5 inches, depending on where you were on the fire. And that really gave us a place to go direct and be pretty aggressive on this fire, where some of the other teams before us hadn't had that opportunity. So we're taking full advantage of these moderated conditions. Even while things are warming up here the last couple of days, we've made some really good progress. People out there doing some really good work, and we look to continue that as we approach the weekend. I think the other thing I'll hit on here is this midpoint time, we're looking at what's the right size for this organization, what the long-term plan is. So every day we'll meet with our agency administrators. That's the folks from the Karuk tribe, both Forest, Six Rivers, and Klamath, and we look at how we're doing, how we're coming along with our process, and then what our plan is moving forward. So those have been some really good conversations and good folks to work with here. One of the challenges we've had all season, not only in California, but every Western state, is just the shortage of resources. That's crews, engines, all the mid-level management we need to do our job out there safely. That's another thing that's changed here in the last week since we've been here. Those critical shortages we're starting to get some fills on. So we're seeing the needs we have, like those hand crews, some of the engines, some of the support staff are showing up, and that puts us in a real good place to continue the operation. And again, while we have this good weather window, do some damage out there and just really take care of some of these problems that we're seeing. So that's going on right now. Again, ops guys will get into that a little bit deeper about what we're doing and where we're working. But for my part, I feel real good. We're getting those resources that were really difficult to come by the last couple assignments that we've had. I think the last thing I'll hit on before I turn it over to the ops folks again is one of the concerns we had coming in here, and it was really loud and clear from both the Klamath and the Six Rivers, is just that the COVID situation. Here we are again in 2021, and it's alive and well. The one thing I want to report out on, because I do know it's been a concern of the communities here, is there has not been a positive COVID case on this fire since August 11th. So that's an excellent track record. We came down from Alaska where definitely we had our concerns up there, and our communities have the same concerns you do. So we take a lot of precautions here in camp while we travel. while we're operating out in the public to make sure we're taking as many of those mitigations and reducing that risk as we can. That includes mask wearing, the hand washing, everything that we're supposed to do, the CDC recommendations, and those have been working for us. We realize it's a concern of the communities, it's a concern of ours as well, and we're going to continue to do whatever we can to keep just reduce that exposure and that risk. And the last thing we want to do is bring that into our communities or bring it into our firefighters from a community. So, I think that's what I had. We'll be here as Sam said, to answer questions. So look forward to getting any of those you might have for us. And I'm going to turn it over to the ops folks. Thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Kyle Cowan. I'm one of the operations section chiefs for the Alaska Incident Management Team. As Sam mentioned, we've got the fire divided into two different sections. We've got a north side and a south side. So the sections are divided here at the Independence Road and then again over at the Marble Mountain area. We also refer to that as not only the north and the south, but branch 10 is to the north and then branch 20 is on the south side. So the branch 20, I'll just kind of do a lap around the map and describe some of the things that we've been doing for the last 4 or 5 days. I'll start with the South Structure Protection Group. They've been busy kind of evaluating and working around different residents in Ishipishi and then and also Sumsbar. So we've spent quite a bit of time there setting up hose lays and doing some work around individual residents. Then we've also spent some time on the Salmon River corridor on a variety of different structures there as well. So that's been our South Structure Group. So if you see engines in the area or different hose lays, that's what we've got going on there. And then I'll just start. We've got the fire broken into different divisions. We've got Division Delta, Division Tango, and then Division Quebec down here on the bottom side. Division Delta, we've spent quite a bit of time in and around the Tin Bears area, working up and down this road corridor to the lookout. That's honestly where we've spent the majority of our time, just sort of putting out hot spots that we've got in there, and every day we find a little bit more heat. So we've got a variety of different hose lays and different water plumbing systems set up in that general area. So they've not only worked in this area, but they've also worked around on the perimeter, on the roadside areas. Working in Division Tango, we spent most of our time in and around the Black Mountain area. So we've been prepping out the Black Mountain Road in there and just trying to evaluate what kind of heat we still have there and cutting out the road in the event that we needed to do any kind of firing operation. We'd be able to accomplish it with good barriers there as far as the road. We've been prepping our hose lays and whatnot over on the Camp 3 road. So we've spent quite a bit of time on the Camp 3 road also, just kind of clearing it out a little bit, setting up hose lays and really trying to make a real definitive area for us. That would be in the event that the fire did want to come in a westerly direction towards Sumsbar or Ishipishi. So we've got some real good strategy lines there in the event that the fire wants to move in that direction. The forecast, I'm sure that'll get covered here in a little while, but right now the winds are next several days being called for out of the southwest. So we feel pretty comfortable with this. So we still feel like we're making a good presence in there. So if you see engines and firefighters, that's what we're doing. Working in Division Quebec, we do not have resources in Division Quebec necessarily. However, we've had several people in and out of Woolly Creek into where the cabins are located. They were wrapped with structure wrap to prevent them from being burned several weeks ago. We've had folks in there validating that, and that still looks really good. And so at this point, what we've got going on is we've got folks kind of pre-positioned in a good spot on a ridge. They're able to look down into these cabins and kind of on the north side of Staniker Ridge. They're able to pay attention to that. They're using some bucket work, using some helicopters to kind of cool this edge, and it still remains on the north side of Staniker Ridge. So that's kind of what the fire's doing as far as that goes. I wanted to cover Little Marble also. At this point, that fire is unstaffed. As of yesterday, we were able to get the resources off of that fire. So that was a 14-acre fire that's been on the map for a while, so I'm sure several of you are familiar with it, but it's unstaffed at this moment. I've been flying it on a daily basis, and myself and the branch and divisions flying it, just kind of making sure that things are staying in check. For the first couple days that we were here, there was very, very little activity in the woolly drainage. Yesterday there was more activity, but it still remained in the same footprint. So it wasn't going to the north, south, east, or west. It was just interior islands that were burning and some smoke. I think, flying around, it's obviously not all consumed. There's lots of green patches in it. It's very mosaic. So as the days continue to be hot, they'll continue to kind of creep around a little bit and produce more smoke. And I think that's as far as I'll go with it right now. Thank you.
All right, good afternoon. My name is John Glover, and I am the Operations Section Chief that is assigned to the north end of the fire. So I'll give you a broad overview of what actions are taking place there, and then be available for, I think, some Q&A afterwards. I'll start along the branch break and along the 96 corridor through Division Juliet along the Independence Road, and working our way up an interior in towards Bishop Bowl. Everything is holding real well, has been since we've been here, and progress is going well. As we make our way up towards the Bishop Bowl area, there's a fair amount of unburned fuel in a pocket in this general area along the Chicken Ladder Road, Bishop Creek area, all that stuff. So there's a fair amount of unburned fuel in there, and the folks have been working to bring the fire down to the control lines over the last couple of days through various techniques and try and pick that edge up a little bit more direct. The topography is such in that area that doesn't make it very conducive for inserting ground personnel and going direct along the fire's edge. So we're trying to straighten out the lines and clean that piece up a bit. Progress is going well so far. Everything's been holding where we would like it to inside of our control lines in that area. The folks have been using hand torches and also some UAS to initiate that process and complete it. We anticipate continuing that through today's shift, and that should wrap it up. Progressing further to the north along Chicken Ladder, where that marries back up to the ridge where the fire's edge comes off Chicken Ladder and works its way up to the ridge along Titus Ridge. Everything is holding well across that control line, that dozer line. There were a couple of slopovers on that piece that we picked up from the previous team, and we're carrying that work forward. They've reached containment on all of those and have extinguished the heat that was inside those slopovers. So everything is going well all the way across Titus Ridge as you work your way down into Elk Creek. Okay, so continuing on along Titus Ridge as it works its way down into Elk Creek at the Juliet November break, everything is holding well along that piece. We've had hotshot crews in there mopping up the couple of slopovers that we've had, and also working where the fire's edge comes off of the actual ridge, picking that piece up direct and extinguishing the heat that's in and along that corridor. Inside the control line, Chicken Ladder Road, folks have been working to clear the logs that have fallen across the road, the trees, and also snag that area out so we can prevent future trees from falling down and impeding access for the locals on there once the road system opens back up and firefighters are out of there. Elk Creek Road is holding still. Everything is looking good in that area. As we work our way around along Cougar Creek Road and out to the east, the fire is holding in that area too. We had a couple of slopovers in that area and I guess across the creek drainage. Folks have been in there working. Lone Peak was in there a couple of days ago. Everything's looking real good in that area. As you come across the top to the November and Oscar break, Oscar will be at a new division that we put in there 2 days ago now. There's a little bit of heat that had slopped over Huckleberry Mountain to the north of that predominant ridge line in there. And we inserted smoke jumpers between yesterday and today. We have a group of smoke jumpers in there that is suppressing that heat, working with helicopters and buckets and opening that fuel up and exposing that and getting some water on it and providing some suppression efforts in that area. It's not a large group of resources, but we don't have a ton of heat and a ton of control challenges in that area. So it's the right amount of resources inserted into that rugged country to limit northerly progression of the fire. I had a chance to fly the rest of Division Oscar down on the east and all the way to the south at our branch break between myself and Kyle. And everything in that area is looking really, really well. There's a couple of areas of heat near Marble Mountain and just south of there, kind of Green Valley area. But most of that has very limited room to move to the east. It's mostly burning in old burn scars with a few pockets where the previous fires did not burn and consume all the fuels. But as it has any opportunity to progress to the east, it runs out of that fuel component and also has to climb out of some very, very deep drainages that do not have a lot of fuel that would make it very challenging for it to progress significantly far to the east. We're continuing to patrol that and monitor that via air. We have air attack and Helco resources that are up overhead and provide consistent coverage throughout the day, and they're keeping eyes on the whole eastern side for us as well to let us know if there's any significant activity that we would need to launch resources there to sustain any movement to the east. Additionally, we have a North Structure Group that is continuing a patrol out in Elk Creek. The values at risk out there, also up kind of on East Fork Road and to the north as well in the subdivisions and also out by Happy Camp. They're still maintaining a presence because of the potential activity in like Bishop Bowl and any significant growth potential. Until we get that area completely locked in, you're still going to see that in the communities. And then once we have a higher level of confidence that there won't be any more northerly movement through some of our problem areas in Juliet, then we'll probably see a lot of the equipment and resources starting to pull out of there and remove a lot of the firefighting apparatus and tools that we have in place in those areas. But until then, you'll still see and maintain a presence, or they will be maintaining a presence out in that area. Anyway, that's kind of a wrap up for Branch 10 in the northern section of the fire, and I'll pass the mic off to our next speaker.
So I'm Dan Byrd. I'm the incident meteorologist on the fire, and I'm here working with the Alaska team. And so for today, it was a pretty warm day across the fire today. Temperatures climbed up into the 90s in the lower elevations along the river. And up across the fire, temperatures climbed into the low 80s. So a very warm and dry day across the fire. I'm expecting these warm and dry conditions to continue through Sunday. Tomorrow's temperatures will be just a little bit cooler, climbing up into the upper 80s across much of the fire and into the upper 70s at the highest elevations. RHs will fall into the teens across most of the fire tomorrow. And at the highest elevations, RHs will be in the low 20% range. Winds today were fairly light out of the southwest, and that will continue tomorrow. The winds will continue out of the southwest, relatively light, but we could see a few gusts, 15 miles per hour tomorrow afternoon. A bigger change begins to occur on Sunday as a strong cold front will approach the Pacific Northwest. Later in the day on Sunday, the clouds will increase, but mostly the skies on Sunday will mostly be clear, but they will increase through the afternoon hours. Temperatures will be down about 10 degrees on Sunday, climbing into the low 80s across much of the fire and into the 70s across the higher elevations on the fire. RHs will be a little bit higher as a little bit more moisture moves across the region on Sunday. Min RHs on Sunday will generally be in the 20% range. The bigger change comes Sunday night into Monday. That cold front will move across the fire Sunday night, and that will bring some Pacific moisture to the area for Monday. Anticipating light rain to begin Sunday evening, probably after about 9 o'clock. The rain will be pretty much light and occasional through that period, but it will be rain. And so that light rain, occasional rain will continue through much of Monday into Monday night. Another thing on Monday, the temperatures are going to be down considerably. Temperatures are going to range from the low 60s to low 70s. The warmest temperatures obviously in the lower elevations. And the winds will continue out of the southwest and become gusty on Sunday, but once again, there will be light rain falling. Right now, it looks like the total rainfall accumulations will be generally around half an inch, but that could change as we get a little bit closer to Monday. That light rain will continue Monday night, but it looks like it will end Monday night into Tuesday morning. And one thing about Tuesday, though, is the temperatures will even be a little bit cooler. I'm expecting temperatures to range from the mid-50s to mid-60s, so much cooler conditions expected on Tuesday. And along with the higher relative humidity values will continue on Tuesday. And as we continue through the rest of the week, it looks like Wednesday, Thursday, and into the end of the week. Looks mainly dry. We could see a few showers on Thursday, but it looks like the cooler conditions will continue through the end of the week. And it may be a bit of a warm-up towards the end of the week into next weekend. Thanks. That works.
Hello, I'm Tobin Kelley, the Fire Behavior Analyst here with Alaska Team 1. So as Dan mentioned, we're into a warm and dry period after the recent rain we had. So as a result, the fuels are starting to dry out and we're seeing an uptick in fire activity. So over the last few days, we've seen a little bit of increase in fire activity every day, from more smoke production to more surface fire. Yesterday we had a little bit of single tree torching. Today we're going to see the same thing, more surface fire, an increase in torching. Nothing that should be very dramatic, but just seeing that general increase in fire activity. So kind of walking around the fire over here in the Bishop Bowl and Titus Ridge area. Dan talked about the ridgetop southwest winds. That should be favorable for this area, and especially with the upslope winds that we normally get during these hot days. They're going to be fairly light, so don't expect a whole lot of push to the fire here. As we move across from Elk Creek over to Huckleberry Mountain, that fire is in the old fire perimeter. And John mentioned a lot of fuels there are very different, more brush fuels, things like that. And that fire has not been wanting to move very aggressively in those fuels, so control is a lot easier and fire activity remains fairly moderate. Same thing as we walk down south from Huckleberry through Buckhorn. Some of the spots out there just haven't been showing real aggressive fire behavior. They're moving, but not at high rates of spread or anything like that. And with the light winds, we don't expect to see that to move very, very fast. Coming all the way down south in Upper Woolly Creek, where we have the gap between the two fire scars here, there's a fuel type change right on the south slope there. Fuels are much more spread out and scabby, not real continuous, so we haven't been seeing a very aggressive fire spread there. We expect that to continue even with the southwest winds that normally might push that finger of fire. Just hasn't been a big issue down there. Moving down towards Lower Woolly Creek and Steinecker Ridge, the southwest winds will be advantageous, keep that fire pushed back on itself, so don't expect to see a whole lot of fire perimeter growth in that area. So overall, we are seeing that uptick in activity. They expect to see that tomorrow, and then as Dan mentioned, as that front comes through, we're going to start seeing that fire activity decrease, especially as we get the precip coming in on Monday. That should be it. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Mark Koppel. I'm the Air Resource Advisor for the U.S. Forest Service here on the McCash Fire. I'm here to talk to you today regarding the smoke that we have in the area. We've had a bit of a pattern in the recent days, but we are getting a little bit more smoke. Pretty much, as you notice in the morning, we'll get a pretty good thick amount of smoke. You can see it up in the mountain ranges. And it seems to drop down early in the morning, and then later in the afternoon it seems to lift, and then we get another peak again. So I placed the monitors strategically throughout the area, all the way from Willow Creek That's my forecast area up to the Oregon border alongside the coast, and pretty much east to Sawyer's Bar. So what we're seeing here is as the fire gets more intense, we get more production of smoke. It seems to flow down the woolly drainage in this part of the fire, and then as it goes, as it's burning up here in Titus area, up around Division N, it seems to flow down into the Klamath River Basin, collect all down. And that's why in Willow Creek it flows down into Klamath. The Woolly Creek, it flows into Klamath, and Willow Creek, Hoopa, they're seeing pretty much the highest amounts of smoke. Smoke ranges are pretty much between moderate throughout the whole area, and then down in Willow Creek, we're seeing smoke actually in the unhealthy for sensitive groups and unhealthy ranges. Tomorrow, I do expect the same type of pattern. Well, pretty much it's been ticking up every day as far as the ranges. So tomorrow we'll get a little bit more smoke. The next day, a little bit more smoke as well. So, and that's it. Thank you very much.
Yeah. Ayuki. I'm Vikki Preston, the Karuk tribal rep here on the McCash Fire. I'm from Orleans, so it's nice that the camp's here in Orleans. But I work for the Karuk tribe in my day job at the Department of Natural Resources. We've had different Karuk tribal reps on the fire throughout the length of the fire. We've had Analyst Tripp, we've had Michael Sanchez, and we've had a bunch of heritage consultants or field-going folks who've been also assigned to the McCash Fire, who've been moving in and around the whole time we've been here, out there protecting cultural resources, out there talking to the divisions and the other field crews, and giving them local knowledge and advice, and walking lines, and being out there, I think, has been like a big help as far as being able to communicate, what tribal needs are, what local needs are, to folks who are coming in out of the area also. And, having, kind of like a slew of field-going folks has been really helpful. They've been able to work alongside the resource advisors and the archaeologists who kind of do similar but different things, out there protecting different resources on the landscape. And, we're not just talking like, like archaeological things. There's different plants and there's different places that are really special to us. So just as an example, so that's kind of what our folks have been out there doing. And, they're out there right now. So yeah, as a tribal rep, I also meet here in camp with all the folks who are with the team and with the forests. And we get to meet and kind of talk about all the other things that are going on behind the scenes with the fire outside of the field. So it's, everything's been really busy, and just trying to be here and hopefully address any community needs also that ever get brought up. So, growing up here and my crew that, lives here and works here, I think we all have a deep caring for this place. So that's basically our role here, and we're available to folks to reach out to. Yotwa.
Ready? Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Nolan Colegrove. I'm a District Ranger for Lower Trinity, Orleans, and Yukonom on the Six Rivers National Forest. Thanks for joining in today. Appreciate get some time to talk with y'all, share some information about the fire. First off, I know we're about 55 days or so into this fire, and there's a lot of impacts to the community from that. Smoke being one of them. A lot of people in your community here. There's some COVID issues, road closures, evacuations, and those sorts of things. And so I know the community's been, affected for a long time up and down the river here. So want you to know that the work that we've been doing here with the Alaska team and Norm McDonald and his folks has been going really well. They have listened to all of our the concerns that we talked about from the onset. Talked about our values at risk. They're really paying close attention to that. And one of those being, the relationships that we have with the community. We want to make sure that we're paying attention to that, and so is the team here. So the team has been excellent working out, getting information out, sharing information, answering concerns, and that's part of the reason for today's meeting is to answer any questions that you might have and to see if we can offer up any information that you might not have. So, with this fire, when it started back in McCash Creek and back there towards Cub Creek, there wasn't a whole lot of resources at the time. There's a lot of fires that broke out in California along the same time frame there, so resources were pretty scarce at the start. And all along, our values at risk have been taken to heart by each of the teams. They worked with the communities, but they've also focused in on the values at risk. And when we first started, the T-Bar and Patterson areas were threatened pretty seriously. So that team at the time, had to focus on where to put those resources that we had because they were limited because of all the other fires. So they did a great job at focusing in on where those priorities were. Every team that's come through since has did the same thing, and as well as this team. And so one of the things that this team is doing is looking at what the situation is now, where we can best use those resources, and where the fire's at. And so right now, up there by Elk Creek and Happy Camp, we got a lot of folks up there working, and the team is focusing in on that. And then we're looking out, as Norm mentioned, we're looking out to other parts of the fire where, we didn't have as much resources as when we started this fire. So fire's been progressively moving out into the wilderness, out towards past Yukonom Lake, over towards the Marbles, and then it kind of made a turn down towards the Woolly Creek drainage, and then a few days back it made it across Woolly Creek, and it's coming up the other side. So one of the other things besides Elk Creek is the team is looking at what we might do in that area right now. Given the situation of what we have, given the current weather, the current fire behavior, we're trying to look at and weigh all those options versus looking really hard at putting people on that hillside up there in the wilderness where there are snags. If somebody gets hurt, it's really hard to get them out of there. And the days when it is smoky, our air support is limited. So we really have to think those things through and weigh those risks out. So, but this team is doing an excellent job right now of weighing those, talking with us over what those concerns are, and just doing a really good job of coordinating and communicating with us and the community. So at this point, I'd like to say thank you to the community for all their help and input into what we've been doing and all the help, because when we first started, there was a lot of folks that said, hey, I have a tractor or a dozer, or I have a piece of equipment that can help, and really appreciate everybody stepping up to help when the resources were real limited. So thank you for that. Thank you for helping out with with all of the local resources here that have come to the cooperators meeting that we have every other day at 11 o'clock or so, and those have been valuable. So we really appreciate your input into that. Please keep that up. I know a lot of people have been focused on those, especially folks from the tribe, like Miko and Vikki. The chairman has weighed in several times, so really appreciate that. Also appreciate, folks like Will Harling who has weighed in on a lot of those meetings and provided that local input, because that was really valuable. And, like we did in the past in other fires, we look at those fire lines that have worked in the past, where we want to focus some effort on, versus those ones that don't work. So that local input that you guys have provided has been really key. So appreciate that. Keep it up. I don't think we're going to be done anytime here soon. But the fire behavior has moderated, so it might give us a chance to look at doing a little more in terms of the going direct. But we'll definitely want to have your input. So thank you all for doing that. There was a couple of questions that came up in terms of closures and specifically road closures. So when you look at the closure orders
from the two forests. So this being a fire that's on the Klamath and the Six Rivers. Well, the other thing that comes into play, there's also a fire down on the lower Trinity Ranger District called the Monument Fire, which is on the Shasta Trinity. And so there are a number of closure orders that are in place at the moment, and they stretch a long way. So you really have to put those all those orders together when you look at the maps. And basically for us, if you look at the down there by Willow Creek and you look at the map along the South Fork of the Trinity River, follow the Trinity River north to the Hoopa Square, then you hit the Klamath River on the other side of that, and it goes all Klamath River all the way north to Happy Camp. Well, that east side is mostly closed. So if you want just a general rule of thumb, the east side of the Trinity, the east side of the Klamath Rivers are both essentially closed. And they're closed because of the Monument Fire, and they're closed because of the McCash Fire together. So we're looking at potentially revising those based on the weather, based on predicted fire behavior, and we'll have something out maybe after the rain comes out or the rain happens on Monday. So we are looking at doing that. The other question that I had that I wanted to address was the increase in law enforcement present here in the community of Orleans. So you might see a few more rigs driving around. So they do look at the closure areas. They do look at keeping folks out of those closure areas. But there's security also for the fire camp, the ICP here. So there's not a bunch of influx of outside law enforcement to do anything else other than kind of manage stuff here with the fire. So that's really where the emphasis is. So with that, the team is here. I know they have some great folks working in the information shop that have good communication, and they've been reaching out to you. So if you have questions, you can reach out to them. But if you don't, if you feel like you want to, reach out to the local folks, just give me a call right here at the office, or send me a message, and I'll respond to an email. So with that, I want to say thank you and appreciate the time.
Great job, Nolan.
All right, Nolan, thank you very much for that. And to all the presenters today, I really appreciate your help. So I'm going to introduce my colleague, Cale Casey. Cale's been collecting questions from the public, and we'll direct those to our subject matter experts here. Cale, if you would, please. There you go.
Thank you, Sam. Appreciate all your questions out there. And again, please remember to ask them also on the phone number that we provide every day on Facebook, InciWeb, and throughout the trapline boards, email, or answer right here, or ask them right here. First up, I have John Glover, our operations chief in the north. He also has a microphone. So John, the question from the audience is, are homes in Elk Creek or Independence still threatened, or has that situation gotten better? And it's also the same for Happy Camp. John?
All right, so we'll start with talking to Elk Creek, and that'll cover a little bit of Happy Camp as well. Elk Creek area, things are getting quite a bit better there. Definitely every day that we increase our progress and increase our depth with the mop up in the Elk Creek area, we're reducing the threat. I don't think that they're in any type of imminent danger by any shape of the imagination. That's why we've reduced the evacuation levels over the past week that we've been here. And then additionally, as I spoke to earlier, we're getting to a position where as we gain a little bit more depth, we'll be looking to go in and pull some of that structure protection equipment that's in and around those areas. So everything in the Elk Creek area is looking significantly better, and we don't anticipate any significant changes in that over the next day or two. And as far as Happy Camp is looking real good as well. Our folks are making good progress across the Division November and Division Oscar area, and we anticipate that to maintain as well. Provided weather maintains as projected, we don't see any significant threat to those two communities.
Great, thanks, John. Appreciate that. And next up, we'll have Kyle Cowan, and he's going to do the same for the Somes Bar community. The question is a fire going to come in Somes Bar? And why are there firefighters around the Ishi-Fishi Road area? Kyle?
All right. Hi, everybody. Again, Kyle Cowan, South Operations. The structure protection crew that we've got on the south side, they've been working that 96 corridor now for Well, at least since the last team. So they've been up and down that road corridor now for the last 2 or 3 weeks, and they've just done a lot of good work. They've done a lot of preparation around homes. We were getting better containment around the fire. The fire is less active towards the west, so those areas are looking a lot better now. The reason why we've had so much traffic in both of those communities is we just want to be prepared for a big wind event or if conditions change. But similar to the north, those communities are not an imminent threat at this point. Things look real good.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kyle. And next up, and the last question for the day is for our F-band Tobin, fire behavior analyst, that is. Is there still a chance for the fire to pick up and get big again? And so what does that outlook look like, Tobin?
Okay, so yeah, there is a potential for this fire to get large again. However, it is a fairly low potential. Part of the reason being is that large parts of the fire are in older fire perimeters where the fuels have been reduced by those older fires, and the fuels that are out there just aren't conducive to large fire spread without conditions being like they would be in August. Very hot, very dry, and very windy. The other thing we look at too is that the seasonality. We are much later in the year, getting towards the end of September. Day length is decreasing every day, so the more northerly slopes are not going to be near as conducive to extreme fire behavior as they are in the middle of the summer, especially as we get the rain event we just had, get another rain event coming in. Those north slopes are going to help retain that moisture, so that is going to be much harder for those slopes to come into play. So again, while there's potential for this fire to get up and do some movement, very low probability at this point. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thanks, Tobin. And we did have one more question come in. And again, keep those coming, whether you're watching live or on the rebroadcast. Put that into the comments there. We'll get to them. We check them throughout the day. It's actually for Vikki Preston from the Karuk tribe. And so we'll have Vikki come back up. I'll move over a little bit. Vikki, the question for you is, how do you experience the COVID mitigations in this fire camp?
Well, the fire camps had quite a few COVID mitigations. We take our temperature every morning when we come in. You drive into camp. Everybody wears masks everywhere in camp, and there's hand washing stations, there's hand sanitizer, everything's cleaned. So it feels pretty safe, which makes me feel better personally, or else I probably wouldn't even be in fire camp very much. So I think that every time you walk into the meetings, they take your temperature. So, and there's been testing available on site. So as far as I can tell, there hasn't been, cases anytime recently. And that makes me feel better also. Like I said, I don't feel like I would be in camp very much if there was like COVID around. So thank you.
Great. Thank you very much, Vikki. And then for everybody else at home, we do also have a medical unit here that's fully staffed. We have protocols, so if somebody were to maybe have a cough or sniffles, they're supposed to call a number first and then get support, so that person actually doesn't go inside the tent. Again, there hasn't been a COVID positive case in the McCash Fire since August 11th. That's a long, long time. There have been tests regularly, and so again, part of our values as firefighters in terms of integrity, duty, and respect is to self-report, make sure that we're taking care of each other, making sure we're taking care of our brothers and sisters on the fire line so they can stay working, and then of course the communities that we serve. Just like back in Alaska, it's really important to us that we're not part of the problem, that we're part of the solution. Putting your fire out, keeping each other safe, and then getting ready in about 9 days for the Alaska team to head back home and safely return to Alaska where we have things to do. That concludes our presentation here today. On behalf of my partner Sam Harrell, on behalf of the Six Rivers National Forest, the Klamath National Forest, the Karuk tribe partners, and our other partners here and cooperators, I want to thank you so much. Again, our information officers are up and down the trap line from Hoopa all the way up to Syad and all the way around every day. I know that you're out there greeting them, and we appreciate that. We're trying to keep distance from you too, so let's keep our masks on, keep each other safe. But that information is critical for you to have, and so it's going to keep coming every day. Thank you so much, and we'll see you next time.